What popular rumor in your school turned out to be true? There was a family in my town that fostered to adopted all their kids. Everyone had known one of their daughters since she was quite young, and then they adopted another girl her age when we were in 8th grade. They did not get along. When the original girl developed epilepsy a few years later, her new sister claimed she was faking, and everyone thought she was so fucking mean and ostracized her. Eventually, she had to fess up to faking the seizures all along when she signed up for basic training, which she never even completed. Unfortunately, this was after we all graduated, so we never got to apologize to her sister. In high school, that the biology teacher was growing weed in the environmental lab. Supposedly he did it for 30 years without anyone noticing. No one could ever prove it though. Later on, I was assigned to be the agent taking care of some of his financial matters. So I went to his house to have him sign some paperwork. He had a hydroponic setup there, so I asked him about the environmental lab. It was like Han Solo in The Force Awakens. It's true. All of it. Then he offered me a brownie. Did you accept it? Doing weed with him? Hell yes. I had to see what 30 years of weed growing expertise got him. And it's the one experience in my life that I brag to all my friends about. I did weed with Dr. Redacted. It was delicious. And I got really, really high. And he told me some stories about my aunt that I'd just as soon forget. She was one of his favorites. He was never inappropriate with her, but she was a total hippie and his best customer. That one of the students was actually a cop. Turns out he was a cop and busted one of the actual students for selling handguns in school. If you thought 21 Jump Street was unrealistic, think again. Cop was a 33-year-old male and undercover for like half the semester. You're still wearing your badge. Yep, you're a narc. That one of the seniors in my school wrote all over the men's room bathroom about bringing a bomb to school. The bomb squad evacuated us all. Dogs came and they found one in a random locker. It was absolutely nuts. Kid got arrested 2 seats next to me in English class a couple of days later, once they could prove he did it. There was always a rumor that the head janitor was a huge pothead and would smoke with students in one of the storage sheds away from the main building. I always figured it was bullshit until my friend CJ sent me a PIC of him and the janitor smoking weed while surrounded by folding chairs. That a 12-year-old 6th grader had gotten pregnant over summer break. Our Los Angeles County suburb, it was a small and far separated from LA itself. See how large that county actually is on Google if you are unawares. Was so scandalized by this rumor that a newspaper article came out with a cartoon drawing of a pregnant girl in a pretty little girl dress and ribbon in her hair. Playing with dolls and kneeling next to a dollhouse accompanied the story about the little girl who got pregnant and planned to keep the baby. She was interviewed. I remember her name, but it's unnecessary, the whole damn town knew who it was. What's wild is that the kids in JR I actually had a baby shower for this 7th grader as she got close to full term, and all brought in packs of diapers and formula for her on a designated day. With the teachers, principal, and probably the school district in support of this. The year was 1984 to 1985. In my Catholic Jesuit high school, one of the priests and one of the nuns were very close friends. We all loved them, and we could see that they were quite fond of one another, and they made a really nice looking couple. We used to affectionately kid them about meeting in the tunnel between the convent and the rectory. A few years after my class graduated, they both left their orders, got married, and had kids. We're all happy for them. Mr. and Mrs. Dickoff teachers had a daughter named Tara. There was a rumor that a teacher had sex with whole basketball team. Turns out it was half of the team. Worst part is her son was on the team. Her husband ended up divorcing her and her son left with his dad. Our freshman science teacher was a massive jerk to any girl and would frequently throw the dress code book at girls for the slightest issue. Everyone said it was because he was pissed his daughter became a stripper. That ended up being true. In middle school, we had a cool social studies teacher. He loved the popular boys, especially the athletes, and not only ignored bullying in his classes of unpopular kids, he often took part in it. He also offered up his services for tutoring to these boys. Everyone always thought he was a child molester, except the popular boys, who would threaten you if they heard you talk bad about him. When we came back to school at the beginning of 8th grade, he was gone. As was one of the more popular boys in school, he transferred to an insanely expensive private school. Turns out, sure enough, he was molested by the teachers several times during tutoring sessions at the teacher's house. The school district agreed to pay to send the kid to private school as part of a settlement. OOF, that's going to affect the kid hard. Hope the kid is okay. It was a really long time ago, back in the 80s. It was funny because nobody saw or heard from him for years. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up at our senior prom as the date of the girl that was his elementary school girlfriend. He seemed fine, but who knows what kind of life he's had since then. Some girl had sex with her half-brother. We all thought it was rumor until she got drunk at a party and told everyone. Same in my school, but they were actually brothers. OOF. A girl in my high school started dating a guy freshman year. Both her mum and his dad were recently divorced. So when they met because of their kids dating, they hit it off with each other big time. The parents got married about a year later and they all four plus any siblings lived together after that. It was real awkward because the classmates broke up my junior year but lived in the same house and basically fought like siblings on the reg after the breakup. Kind of wonder how they're doing now, lol. I had a science teacher that was rumored to get a boner whenever he started shouting. We thought it was a myth until we noticed it for real. He would always try put one leg up on a chair to hide it. In middle school, there was a rumor my 7th grade social studies teacher owned a pet donkey. Turned out to be true. The donkey's name was Pedro the Donkey. I'm so glad there are some wholesome content after 99 comments of teachers' students fucking. That a science teacher used to be a stripper. Few years back, a woman was fired from her job as a lunch lady, and she had been employed there for some time. She was let go because when she was young, she was in a porn movie and some asshole found it and posted it. Can't help but wonder how they knew to look for her. That this girl at my school, who was maybe 16, was banging all the older kids who never left for college. Well, she definitely was. And everyone found out when she banged one of the cooler guys still in high school. And there ended up being a herpes outbreak at my school. Nearly 40 people got herpes, lol. Paige was pregnant. None of us believed her. We were 13 and we were just about to start sex ed classes in a few weeks to learn about sex. So we all thought she was making it up. Then she started to gain weight, but she had always been kind of overweight, and so no one really believed her then either. Then she brought sonogram pictures in because she was sick of people not believing her. Most people believed her after that. Then she got taken out of school. And this was back when FB was super popular and everyone was talking about her baby. A few months later, she had posted all these pictures. Sorry I didn't believe you, Paige. I looked her back up when I was 15. She had a second kid. Reminds of the first day of health class my freshman year. The teacher said, "Jane Doe, is Jane Doe here?" A classmate said out loud, "Yeah, she had a baby yesterday." The teacher went, "Okay, you could have said that privately." Everyone knew she was a 14-year teen mum when she came back to class. She later dropped out sophomore year. Two of the science teachers do shrooms together. Found out cause one of their sons was a student. Edit, apparently this happens a lot. This was in Norcal. LMAO, they're just collaborating with their curriculums. These took place in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Girl in my high school got into a very bad car accident and was in the hospital in a full body cast for a very long time. During that time, her boyfriend somehow managed to get her pregnant and she later had an abortion. Years after high school, I became friends with someone who was her best friend in high school. She told me that it wasn't the first time this boyfriend had gotten her pregnant, or that she had had an abortion. Also, there was some controversy over whether the hospital sex was consensual or not. Also, her parents had to pay a lot of money for her to get therapy. Also in high school, there was this kid I viewed as an arrogant punk. He always had a ton of money and was into photography. Apparently his father was a professional photographer. The rumor was that he was paying a lot of money to the hottest girls in our school to pose nude for him, penthouse style. At the time, I had seen Playboys but no penthouses and didn't realize that the poses in Penthouse were a little more explicit. I ran into him a couple of decades later and we went to a nearby bar to have some drinks. He seemed very humble at this point, as if life had and grinded him down. He admitted to me that he had become an alcoholic. I told him about the rumor and he confirmed it, saying his father had put him up to it and that his father was the one who wanted the pictures and that was why his father gave him so much money. After his father died, he inherited all his stuff and while going through some boxes he ran across the pictures. He destroyed them immediately, not wanting to get caught with them because they were of underage girls. I'll add this one even though it has not been confirmed and is probably somewhat true, but not completely true as told. There were rumors that a girl who was a senior when I was a sophomore appeared in a porn film while she was in high school. Again, this was the late 70s, probably 1978, and we were only about 20 miles from San Francisco, where a lot of those films were being made at the time. Also, she would have been 18 at the time. There are a few guys I know who have spent the last 40 years trying to find this film. I think that with the internet and all the resources available, IMDb, IAFD, Shamster and so on, if this film existed with her in it, someone from high school would have found it by now. I've heard from another that may know that all she did was agree to be an extra in a scene where she and a bunch of other extras went skinny dipping in a river for about 40, and that no one knows, including her, what happened to the film. My guess is that someone heard about this and decided to embellish the story. The new teacher was rumored to be a pedophile. We found out it was true when he got arrested just a couple days into the second semester. How did the rumors even start? The band director was grooming and seducing his favorite female percussionists. Edit, apparently this is something of a common occurrence. Anywho, he finally got caught with one of the girls in his car late at night. I was being a father figure, mentor, yada, yada, yada. Everyone knew the real story. He lost his job and personally I've never heard about him since. Rumour was the JR. High English teacher was a bit of a perv. Most of our parents would say, hey, stop joking about that. Turned out he was about 10 years ago he was arrested, charged and convicted on child porn charges. Edit, for all the people asking because I can't answer each one individually, he wasn't discovered and charged until after he'd been teaching for years. Almost a decade after I graduated from HS. There was a complaint he'd been selling weed in exchange for, and finally one of the parents got wind. Police raided his place, found weed and tapes and other things. He was put in jail and of course lost his job. Got stabbed by one of his prior victims. So there's some justice. Small towns, eh? Edit 2. I get that people are upset about background checks, but this was in the late 70s, early 80s, so let's face it, background checks were mostly calling references and previous jobs. It was simpler. Stupid a time. There was a rumor going around in my high school that an English teacher and a biology teacher were sleeping with each other. I thought it didn't make any sense at all, other than being strict teachers who graded harshly. It's not like they had anything in common, and I'd never even seen them talking to each other or interacting in any way. They were both married, and besides, she was youngish and attractive, and he was, not. I had always figured that someone who managed to flunk both classes at the same time just decided to start a rumor. My brother is 6 years younger than me, and during his time at the school they both were fired suddenly in the middle of the school year. Turns out it was true all along. They had been caught fraternizing on school grounds. I was pretty surprised. Of all the weird rumors that go around in a typical school, that was the one that had to be true. How did the students find out? There were rumors that there was a network of underground tunnels that connected every building on my college campus. Didn't believe it till I walked through them myself. I know that's not about teachers fucking kids or incest or whatever, but I still think it's interesting. Edit, well, I kind of expected this to stay buried, but here we are. To clear up the mystery still remaining and elaborate a bit, one Grand Valley State University in Grand Rapids MI, but the tunnels are under the main campus in Allendale. 2 can confirm they were maintenance and steam tunnels. Some older sections may have doubled as bomb shelters. As a student, I had a job that allowed me to request keys to pretty much anywhere on campus without question. The first time I found the tunnels was because I opened a door labeled maintenance in the basement of a dorm and found myself staring down an incredibly long corridor. For my GV brothers and sisters who are on campus now, look for the big metal cylinders scattered throughout campus that look like huge central AC units or HVAC related. You'll sometimes hear fan sounds coming from them. Those are access points vents to the tunnel system. Off the top of my head, I know there's one outside Mackinac Hall, one outside Kirchhoff if you enter by the clock tower, and one outside the back entrance to the music building. There's dozens more, but it's been a while. Happy hunting. We had heard an underclassman, she was 15-ish, was sleeping with a local army guy. But nobody really believed it until the day our school got locked down BC. Her boyfriend showed up with a knife. The boyfriend in his 30s was intending to force her go get an abortion. But our principal was a badass who locked her in his office, then took the boyfriend down and held him in a headlock until the cops arrived. Edit, this absolutely was a case of statutory rape. I used the term boyfriend BC, that's how she still refers to him, and I didn't think about changing it. My bad. I apologize if I angered anyone. That's a very badass principal indeed. He was great. He would do the whole we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Dance just BC, he felt whimsical. At the same time, H'd be there if you needed help, regardless of the reason. Is this how he distracted Knifey Army Man before taking him down? Edit, 3 awards. 3, you lovely people. In elementary about 15 years ago, our favorite school teacher didn't come back after a summer break. He was awesome, funny, sporty, cool, down to earth, never shouted. Just a great role model to have around when you are a kid. Rumors went round that his wife and daughter died in a car accident. No one believed it. It was just what kids said on the playground. Somebody heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody. Then I went to the local grocery store with my mum a little while after school had started again. I saw my old teacher. He was a shell, a wreck. I was only 8, but even then you can tell when someone isn't there anymore. I asked parents of my friends, and they confirmed the rumors. I felt so bad that something as awful as that could happen to one of the best guys I ever knew and always looked up to. Turns out he committed suicide a couple of years ago. Same bridge that his wife and daughter died on all those years ago. My middle school math teacher, married man, was having an affair with one of the special education teachers. Went on for years. After I graduated high school, he killed himself when the other woman gave him an ultimatum. Confirmed by a family member that worked as a substitute teacher. Coincidentally, said family member also had an affair with another employee there that resulted in that employee shooting herself in front of my mother. What a roller coaster of events. This was a rumor that went around my elementary school. Basically, my school had a lockdown, but they didn't tell us what it was for. One kid came in the next day and told us that his sister said it was a cow in the field in between the high school and middle school. So my second grade class went and told everyone else in the school. The next day, we had an assembly that confirmed this rumor. Ha 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 ha. This one's kinda funny. Hopefully, the cow got taken off the field safely. The band teacher was having a long-term affair with one of the students. We were in 8th grade. Her parents apparently knew about it all along and were fine with it. But one of the other band parents noticed inappropriate behavior when she was helping chaperone a Disney trip they were all on. It was big news. Lol. New physics teacher was a total creep. The old Spidey sense kicked in for all of us. We could all tell something was wrong with the guy. Most of us dropped the class. Plus, he sucked as a teacher and everyone was failing. Years later, I stumble across a news article saying the teacher was fired and arrested for videotaping girls in the classroom through the use of camera hidden in the classroom, mostly aimed at cleavage and upskirt short shots. We knew he was a weirdo. Time always tells the tale. Biology teacher decided to use the scientific method to personally prove or disprove to himself that humans could photosynthesize. He did this by laying bare ass naked on his front lawn, landing him a public nudity charge, all in the name of science. That this hot chick at my school was banging 2 army recruiters. Found out it was true when they were on the news being arrested. One of them ran to, I think, Michigan with his wife and kids. Imagine trying to explain to your wife that you need to uproot everything including your kids and flee to another state because you fucked a high schooler. I know someone who did almost exactly that same thing. Husband got caught flashing his penis to a minor. The whole family quickly moved states away to avoid him going to jail. He got arrested anyway. They divorced when he got out of prison. Then she remarried him years later. They got divorced for second time after that. When I was a sophomore in high school, the basketball coach became the new principal of the school. He had a girl who was on the girls' basketball team worked in his office. Back then, students were allowed to work as an office assistant if their grades were good, and if they're seniors, she was there almost all the time, even when she wasn't supposed to be. The rumor was that they were sleeping with each other because people would see them doing things after school, like running together and go out to eat somewhere. These rumors were later blew off as nothing because even though he was the principal, he still devoted his time to an after-school jogging running class to help students and teachers stay active and keep in shape, and buying dinner at McDonald's for a student isn't the same as taking them somewhere more extravagant like steakhouse. After I came back as a junior from summer break, everyone in a class and in the entire school found out that they both got married and were expecting their first child together. He was married with children from a previous marriage that ended after the girl graduated from high school. One of the teachers was banging a student. They got caught the year he left, but it was rumored 3 years before that. My AP as Gov teacher was the daughter of Phil Jackson. We all believed it, and during his last Lakers game, her and her family was there and shown on screen. Got a screenshot of her at the game and shared with some friends. We all knew for sure then, but we never really brought it up to be respectful as she didn't like the attention for it. It wasn't really a rumor, more of an open secret. One of our English teachers was in the IRA. One of our history teachers once showed us a documentary about the early years of the Troubles, mainly the civil rights movement. And sure enough, in the film, you can see our English teacher standing holding a rifle without even a mask on him. At that point, it wasn't really a secret anymore. IRA membership was supposed to be secret, but if you were in it, everyone knew about. The fact his membership was confirmed with that video always made me laugh. Was not expecting this to take off the way it did overnight. So here's a bit more context. This happened over 20 years ago. The school is in the north of Ireland, in a Republican area. A lot of people, myself included, would have had relatives involved with the IRA and/or INLA. For example, the father of one of the boys in my year at school was a genuine local legend because of what he had done during the 70s when he was on the run. Other people would have been very close relations to a few of the hunger strikers who died in 1981. Everyone, and I mean everyone, would personally know a member of those organizations, even if they weren't related to one. What I'm saying here is, the IRA were an entirely normal part of our society. The vast majority of people would have seen them as legitimate and no different to how other normal societies would view their police and armed forces. So, whenever we seen our teacher in the video, no one was shocked or anything like that. Everyone already had an idea that he'd been a member. We just thought it was funny that he wasn't wearing a mask. A little ironic that they were the English teacher. Huh? One summer, we came back to school and noticed that the very popular drumline instructor and one of the female drumline members 16 years old had both disappeared. Obviously, we jumped to the conclusion that there was an inappropriate relationship going on. Just a few years ago, I was sitting next to a band teacher at a bar, and I relayed this story. He confirmed that it was true. Taylor's mum gave Mark a handy during football practice. We had 3 at my high school, in no particular order. The drama theatre teacher worked at a strip club at night. She did, but as a waitress bar back. That 2 particular kids would often bang in the orchestra pit of the auditorium. My sophomore year, the 2 kids were caught banging in there and got subsequently expelled. That a specific history teacher was a Vietnam vet and had severe PTSD just waiting to be set off. One day, we watched the D-Day scene beaches of Normandy from Saving Private Ryan while studying World War II. That day, class was 20 minutes of movie, and 35 minutes of him sobbing under his desk while everyone sat there awkwardly in silence. All his other classes for the rest of the day were cancelled, and he took some vacation time for a month or so after that. Edit, additional infocoments for those who have asked. The school is in Portland, or, more specifically, it's in unincorporated Portland and part of the Beaverton School District. The school was built in 1994, and at the time was touted as the largest and most expensive school in the district. I attended there from 1998-2001. The drama teacher actually was a waitress and not a stripper exotic dancer. The history teacher had shown the movie multiple times previously and not had an issue. PTSD is a fickle mistress like that. Expelling a couple of underage kids for fucking in a public school building during school hours in an area they weren't supposed to be in, while 2,000 other kids were also in the building, is a perfectly reasonable response for the administration considering the fact they could have brought them up on criminal charges as well, and chose not to. PTSD is no joke. Hope the history teacher is okay. He was solid once he came back, but that day, class was pretty fucked up. He taught y'all the kind of lesson that really hits home and never gets forgotten. Pretty much. Vietnam War vets got fucked over hard. In every way imaginable. I think I remember one point of a Vietnam War documentary where a vet basically said that the reason he and his generation stopped respecting their parent generation was, I came home from a war my father's generation started to see someone my father's age hitting someone my age and calling him a baby killer. So, of course, we didn't respect them after all that. It seemed fair enough. When was in high school, 1 year for history. We were assigned to interview a Vietnam veteran. Looking back, I'm really surprised there wasn't more oversight over what could be a very sensitive topic. A bunch of my friends and I were in the same Boy Scout troop, and my best friend's dad was a vet, so we asked him if we could interview him. And he agreed. One of the questions was something about how he was regarded when he came home, and he said something remarkably similar to this. In fact, it was part of why he did a second tour. Basically, if nobody here wants me around, I'll go back there to be among people where I'm appreciated. That assignment seemed like a bit of a pain at the time to have to bother someone else for their time, but looking back, it was one of the most impactful. My best friend, whose dad we interviewed later, told me that was the most he had ever heard his dad talk about his time in Vietnam, and thanked us for asking him to do it. Now that I'm thinking about it, that history teacher had several pretty great teaching methods. 2 others that came to mind. We learned about the stock market, and he ran a stock market simulation in class. There were only 3 stocks to choose from, but the pricing was solely determined by the buying and selling among his history classes, which meant pricing would fluctuate even while you weren't in class. Our grade for this project, he told us, would in part be based on how our portfolio performed. Over a few days, the market was roaring and people were going crazy buying. Prices were booming and everyone was happy. Then one day, I think the day before the end, we came in and the prices were significantly down. Immediately, everyone's trying to dump their portfolios, which, of course, is driving the prices lower and lower. And within 20 minutes, most of the class was either penniless or worse, deep in the red. Thus began our unit on the Great Depression. A few weeks later, everyone comes into class and sits down, and the teacher starts passing out papers to the first kid in each column. And everyone does the take one and pass it back thing. Before they can even all be completely distributed, he's coming around with the second sheet. When you get the paper, it's a plain white Xerox with about size 12 font, capital X's printed all over it. Edge to edge, no margins. As many as will fit. You get the second sheet and it's the same thing. And a third, fourth, fifth. After a few more rounds, he instructs us to just grab a few and pass the test back, and starts distributing stacks of these pages, all covered in X's. He does this for the entire 40-minute period, never saying a word other than brief instructions, and ignoring all questions. About 2 or 3 minutes before the end of the period, he stops. Everyone has dozens of pages, all the same thing, covered in the X's. Students have piles and piles of pages all over their desks, on the floor, you name it, and they've got these sheets in stacks on it. Once he stops handing out, he simply stands up at the front of the room and says something like, "Each X on the pages I just handed out represents one Jewish person killed in the Holocaust. I still have more stacks to pass out, but I don't have enough time. I want you to look at these sheets and understand that each letter X is representative of an actual human being with a family and friends and a life. Please just take a few moments in silence and think about all the X's you're all holding right now." We have about a minute of silence, and then he very simply says, "We're out of time for today. We'll begin tomorrow, but I want you to remember this. Please leave your pages in the box by the door on your way out. And please don't discuss today's class with any of your friends, as they deserve to experience it in the same way as you. Goodbye." In fact, it was part of why he did a second tour. Basically, if nobody here wants me around, I'll go back there to be among people where I'm appreciated. I actually worked in Ho Chi Minh City as an ESL teacher, and war vets do retire in droves there. They don't say why, but I got the definite impression that they prefer South Vietnam to the States. My late great-grandfather, who was a man that I've never seen sad in my life and was a World War II vet in the Atlantic Theatre, apparently was completely inconsolable during Saving Private Ryan. I was too young to watch the movie at the time, so I wasn't there for it. But that must have been a heavy moment for everyone, especially since he never talked to anyone about what he saw over there and took his experiences to the grave. Nowadays, my dad, an Iraq war vet, will sometimes watch Hurt Locker and Jarhead, I think, as a way to process his feelings about his service and confront his own PTSD about it. Saving Private Ryan is infamous for triggering PTSD in soldiers. It's said to be the most realistic war film ever made. Many soldiers walked out of the theaters because it was just too much. PTSD can hit decades after it happens. My history teacher in 7th grade broke down while telling us how it felt to be talking to your buddy one moment and then half his face is gone the next. I don't remember what we were studying though. My high school janitor was my baby brother's dad. How did you find out? The janitor wanted to keep the baby and announced it to me and my youngest sister, and it spread pretty quickly throughout the school. I'm surprised he didn't just try to sweep it under the rug. That a girl in my grade gave her older brother a BJ with pop rocks in her mouth for 50. Her fiancé confirmed it for us years later. Turns out it's a fetish of hers. The pop rocks, not the incest. Kinda wild that not only would someone get engaged to a mate with a known history of doing that, but also talk about it and confirm rumors. My fiancé is a total freak, brah. Oh, by the way, it's $75 without the family discount. Vice principal was checking out female students and taking pics. He got fired. One of our teachers were fucking a rich student's dad for expensive cars and other shit. Heard her talk about it in the hallway on her phone. I went to a private school and we had a similar incident. They hired an art teacher that wasn't very good at art, and within like 3 months one of the students' parents had filed for divorce and the art teacher was dating the dad. They got engaged towards the end of the year and she quit. They got married the following Christmas and she immediately got pregnant. It was pretty obvious to everyone why she took the job in the first place. I call this piece ascendancy. Some teachers spread some rumors that I won't be successful in life. That the creepy track coach computer teacher with a Corvette and a hair transplant, worst case of midlife crisis I've ever personally seen, was banging an underage student. Father Barnes got Sister Mary pregnant. A young lady wanked off her pet dog at a house party. I heard it was true when I went to talk to her, because she was in my friend circle. I said, hey, just so you know, I don't believe those disgusting rumors going around that you blew a dog. That's just awful. I don't know who would even come up with something like that. And she up and said, yeah, I didn't blow him. I just tugged him off a bit. Edit, please stop asking what country state school this was. For one thing, I'm not trying to out the dog. Wanker. Plus, I'm not going to thereby say what high school I myself went to, but most importantly, every time one of you guesses incorrectly, that's just another unfortunate incident of pet molestation I'm now aware of. One incident was enough. Too much.